So without further ado, let's get started today. Overview of today's presentation. First, we're going to talk about, what constitutes a failing business, and when is it too late to employ turnaround strategies. We'll also talk about, what exactly is, business turnaround. And we'll also talk about different strategies and also turnaround management and, of course, different stages of repositioning an organization and maintaining your business after the turnaround. So a lot of people say when they talk about asset protection, what is asset protection? Okay, asset protection is the legal process of titling both your personal and business assets to put them beyond the reach of future potential threats and creditors, while simultaneously enjoying the benefit of those assets. So asset protection is the legal process of titling both your personal and business assets to put them beyond the reach of future potential threats and creditors, while simultaneously still enjoying the benefit of the assets. And what we do as asset protection attorneys is we help our clients protect any asset they have from any financial threat. So our clients might be business owners, doctors, people who received money in a divorce, an inheritance, really anybody who has things that they don't want to lose. And the type of assets we help them protect, might be as simple as house, car, money, checking, savings, stock, bond, brokerage accounts, really anything. And we help them protect them against any financial threat. So it might be lawsuits, car accidents, creditors, judgments, anything that can take away what they worked their whole life to obtain. And a lot of times, people say, well, do I have enough assets to protect? And the simple answer is yes. I believe that the less you have, the more you need protection. And the example that I always give on these webinars is, take one of my professional athlete clients who signs an NFL deal, for $50 million. Well, if he gets sued for $5 million, he still has $45 million left. Take the average person who has saved up a couple $100,000 of, over their lifetime, if they get sued for $1 million, they're going to be wiped out. That's going to be catastrophic, very hard to come back from. And a lot of people say, well, what if I already have an asset protection plan? And if you already have an asset protection plan, I think that's great, but you definitely want to have it checked. Laws change every single year. And a lot of times people think they have an asset protection plan. One of the biggest misconceptions we see is they set up like a domestic revocable living trust and essentially think their assets are protected. Well, the domestic revocable living trust is great for estate planning, but doesn't do anything for asset protection. So if you have an asset protection plan already, I think that's great, but I think I would definitely encourage you to make sure you just, have it checked out, make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So why do you need asset protection? And I have this cute little cartoon of two lawyers talking to each other, and one says, I say Sue, and the other one says anyone in particular. And I always get a few smiles when I show this cartoon, but unfortunately, this is reality. Just like we get together on a monthly basis to, trying to help educate each other how to protect ourselves, well, the lawyers are getting together, but they're getting together once a week or once a day, and they're saying, who can we sue next? Is it going to be the car manufacturers, the doctors, the business owners? Who's going to be next? There's 100 million lawsuits every single year, and that number is only growing. In today's day and age, people are losing their jobs. It's a bad economy, and the people who are lucky enough to keep their jobs are making less and less. Why not go to any corner, find a free attorney on a contingency fee basis, and if you win, you get a lot of times tax-free money. So it doesn't really cost you much but 30 minutes of your time. There's a 1 in 4 chance you will be sued in the next 12 months. The average person and company is sued 5 times over their lifetime. There's a 50% chance of divorce, and a lawsuit can cost you tens of thousands of dollars even if you win the case. Somebody might sue you, and it might be a totally frivolous lawsuit, and you might beat them. But after you've been in court for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you've probably spent tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars defending yourself. So even if you win, you really lose. The trick is not making money, it's keeping it. And the challenge that I give to all of my clients is that for every 60 minutes you spend making money, spend 60 seconds thinking about how to protect it. So a lot of people say, well, I have insurance. Isn't insurance enough? And I think insurance is great. I think you should buy as much insurance as you can because it's cheap and it helps you sleep at night. But with that being said, understand that insurance is a for-profit company. They're here to make money. And about 70% of lawsuits are not covered by insurance. Also, the coverage may be inadequate. What if you have $300,000 of car insurance and you hit someone and they're paralyzed in the hospital with $1 million in medical bills? Who do you think has to come out of pocket for the rest? Your insurance company might go bankrupt. If I would have said that 5, 6 years ago, you would have laughed me out of the room. Today we have banks going out of business, Fortune 500 companies going out of business. Who's to say that the insurance companies won't be next? Also, insurance doesn't cover other uninsured financial risks and divorce. Insurance alone is not the answer. You need your own asset protection plan to supplement your insurance. I call it the belt and suspenders approach. You want as many layers and as many firewalls as possible to make it so difficult and expensive, if not impossible, for anybody to collect against you that they don't even want to sue you in the first place. So the 3 maxims of asset protection. Number 1, protect yourself before you have a problem. You don't buy car insurance after the accident. You don't buy health insurance after you get sick. You have to be proactively when it comes to your asset protection plan. Start with a basic plan and add firewalls as needed. A lot of times someone will read my book and they'll fly in from a different state and they'll want this huge, pricey, complicated plan. And I'll have to spend time explaining to them why they don't need it. Start very simple. Start very inexpensive. Start very basic. As your assets grow, your plan can grow. As your education grows, your plan can grow. And most importantly, don't look for one magic bullet or one right plan. Asset protection is not cookie-cutter work. Asset protection is individualized and customized and tailored. Everybody has different assets and everybody has different potential threats and liabilities. What might work for me might not work for you and vice versa. You need your own customized plan. A lot of mistakes to avoid, but today we'll just talk about the 5 killer mistakes. Number 1, hiding your assets. Asset protection is not about hiding. It's not about secrecy. It's about protection. You should be able to tell every single person what you have and where it is. They just shouldn't be able to get to it. And I tell all my clients, expect that at some point, if they're sued and if they lose, they'll have to sit down for a deposition under oath. And you can't lie under oath. So hiding doesn't work. Never title all your assets to straws. I can't tell you how many times someone will come into my office and say, oh, Mr. Presser, I'm being sued, but don't worry, I gave everything to my brother-in-law or to my best friend. What actually makes you think that your brother-in-law or best friend has less financial and legal troubles than you? I've seen clients lose their money because their brother-in-law or best friend gets sued. I've seen clients lose their money because their brother-in-law or best friend gets a divorce. Never go titling all your assets to your spouse. I see this a lot with my doctor and physician clients. Oh, we put everything in my wife's name, but she's the less vulnerable spouse. And that may be, but nobody's immune from a lawsuit. You don't get up in the morning and expect to be sued. Your wife can just as easily get in a car accident taking the kids to soccer practice. You never want to commit fraudulent transfers, and fraudulent transfers deals with transferring assets out of your name for less than fair market value after you have a present or potential creditor. So again, we want to make sure that all the asset protection planning we're doing is totally proactive. And of course, you never want to break the laws. Our law firm does both domestic and international asset protection planning. There's nothing wrong with setting up offshore companies or offshore trusts or offshore accounts. There's something very wrong with setting them up and not disclosing them to the IRS, the government, the Treasury Department, etc. So no matter what you're doing, whether it's domestic or international, always make sure that everything is legal and ethical. So what constitutes a failing business? Maybe your company is mismanaged, okay? Maybe you're unfamiliar with how to market your business. You can have the best business or product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, what does it really mean? Maybe your prices aren't high enough. So many times we work with clients and they talk about how their prices might be too high and they try and be the low-cost provider. But sometimes your prices aren't high enough. Maybe you're in a field where if your prices are too low, they might not respect you. They might think you have no clue what you're doing. You didn't take time to know your customers. The most important thing is to know your customers. These are people who came to your business for a reason. So if you want to multiply and duplicate what you've done, you have to really take the time to know and learn your customers. You don't want to use social media. We see this a lot with older business owners. They just don't want to conform to the times. Unfortunately or fortunately, this is the way of the world. You have to be on the internet. You have to be on social media, and things change. Businesses change. You have to keep up with the Joneses. Lack of accurate financials. They've seen a lot of times where clients get into trouble because they have a staff member or a CPA stealing from the company. You always have to be totally on top of all of the financials. You can't deal with growth. Some people say, what do you mean here? Sometimes growth is a problem. If you're not ready for growth, it can be a problem. So, of course, every company presumably wants to grow, but you have to set yourself up for growth and be prepared and expect growth and be ready for it when it comes. And maybe you have inadequate analysis of strategies or even lack of future goals. In order for any business to be successful, you have to vision and see what the future holds. If you don't visualize it, if you don't see it, it'll never happen. You have to have a plan and future goals in place. So what is a business turnaround? Business turnaround is a process essentially devoted to corporate renewal and restructure. And the process includes, analysis and planning to save troubled companies and return them to solvency. And the process also identifies the reasons for failing performance and resolves them. So in layman's terms, what does that mean? It means you have a business that's failing for some reason or another. To do a business turnaround, you want to create a new business, whether you're fixing the old business or just starting a new business, and you want to know what works and what doesn't work. Why did the first business fail? What can you do in the second business to make sure that it's successful? Management is so important when it comes to a business turnaround. Turnaround management involves reviewing current management and making fundamental changes. Activity-based costing and business failure cause analysis to determine why the company is failing. A lot of times the reason a company fails is due to the people. And you might have the right employees, but they might not be in the right positions. So you really need to take another look at your business management when it comes to the turnaround. After that analysis, you got to put together some sort of strategic, comprehensive, individualized, and customized and tailored plan so you can restructure. If you don't put a plan together, if you don't visualize those goals like we talked about, you're never going to be able to accomplish them. And lastly, of course, you always want to have a continued assessment, and still make changes, until the company returns to solvency. So it's not a one-time thing. This is something that you're constantly monitoring, to try and fix this broken down business. Strategies. Number one, improve financial controls by using data intelligently to create the ability to develop, produce, and distribute. So, financial controls are so important and data is so important. Are you doing weekly or monthly or quarterly marketing analysis? Are you doing weekly or monthly or quarterly, income and expense analysis? You really got to be on top of the data. The data will tell you a lot. You can improve your marketing by making fundamental changes that focus on producing revenue. Look at your marketing. Is it really doing things to generate sales? Is it really doing something to generate income? Is it really doing something to generate revenue? Also, what can you do to reduce your costs and assess damage control? A lot of times, money's going out of the business so fast, it's bleeding. You got to stop the expenses. What expenses do you really need to pay, and what expenses can you live without? Other strategies are sell the profitable parts of your business to have more cash flow. And I'm going to talk more about this in a minute. You can also redistribute and disperse functions, powers, peoples, or things. Bring in new management to initiate turnarounds, and always use a combination of several strategies. One of the big strategies is some buyback. And what the dump buyback is when you have a failing business, it's essentially when you sell the assets of that failing business to a new company where you can be successful. And I'll just give you a quick example. Let's say you have a business that the owner owes $1 million to different creditors. And let's say that business is generating $300,000 a year and has roughly $500,000, in equipment needed to run the business. Well, why not start a new company, have the $500,000 in equipment appraised by 2 or 3 different independent appraisals? Maybe it comes out at $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. Usually it's 10, 20 cents on the dollar. Picture it. You buy a desk. How much is it to buy the desk? If you want to get rid of the desk, you probably have to pay someone just to come pick it up. You can have the new company, as long as it's done legally and ethically, buy the assets at a highly discounted rate, usually 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar, from the old company. Now you can start your new company with all the assets that you need to be successful with no debt. Meanwhile, whatever you've paid the old company can be paid to whatever, as long as you're not in bankruptcy, preferential creditors, and maybe out of the $1 million of money you owe, maybe there's one or two people that you really need to make happy because you're going to need them for your new business. So it's a way to essentially get rid of all your debts and start clean, and it's called the dump buyback. Stages of reposition and organization. Number one is situation evaluation and assessment. You need to determine if the situation can be turned around and what must change to accomplish a turnaround. So before you do anything, you have to say, can you turn it around, and do you want to turn it around? Next, as we talked about, is the management. You have to look and see whether the executive should remain or be replaced. Change your business philosophy and how the business is run. You see it all the time when companies are taken over. First thing they do is hire and fire. They want new people in there. Obviously, if it wasn't working with the old employees, you got to get a new, fresh face in there. Emergency action. Gain control and raise cash quickly. What can you do to get cash in the bank as soon as possible? Okay, what can you market to the clients? What can you sell to the clients? What can you do to start increasing revenue? Business restructuring. You might want to fix the corporate structure to get a continuous process for profitability. So you really got to take a look. Are you operating as an S Corp, as a C Corp, as an LLC, a limited partnership, a trust? There's so many different types of business entities, and you really need to look and see, is this the right entity for you? A lot of times the CPA will push the S Corp, but it really isn't the best entity for a client. And lastly, it's the revitalization and returning to normal. And this generally deals with, building strengths and management, improving the customer service, develop corporate structure and culture. It's really just getting things back on track, but making sure that you keep all the processes up to date. Critical steps. Remove debt. Obviously, you want to get rid of the debt as quickly and as cheaply as possible. I always tell my clients, if you have 10 people that you owe money to, why pay one of them? If you pay one of them, you still owe 9. I don't like my clients to settle the debt unless it's what I call a global or universal settlement. Settle with all 10 at the same time. Either get them all off your back or don't do anything. But it's not going to help you to get one creditor off your back just to have 9 more waiting for you. You need to track, monitor, and control the business activity and profitability. Again, education is key, and education is power. The more you can know about your business, where does it come from? Who's referring your business? What marketing is working? How much is it producing? Are referrals better than internet leads? The more data you can have will certainly increase your profitability. You got to change the old business models. Obviously, the old business models weren't working, hence why you need to try different routes. Get rid of the old, in with the new. Become very familiar with your target market. If you're marketing or selling to a certain target group, you need to know. Are you selling to 30 to 60-year-old males? What income bracket are they in? What do they like to do on their free time? The more you can know about the customer, the more you can help target who you're marketing to. Establish your marketing strategies, and of course, seek ways to maximize the profitable aspects of your business. So whatever you can do to bring money in and to market your business. So what you can do to maintain your business after the turnaround. Focus your attention on revenue, expenses, operations, and cash flow. What money's coming in? What money's coming out? You really got to be on top of that. Focus on the customer. Who is the customer? Know your customer. I can't say that enough. If the brand went bad in the eyes of the customer, work on getting the brand name back up again. Or if you can't, you might have to consider doing a new brand. But branding is very important. And of course, develop an administration and operation team that make the business run smoothly. You don't have to be the best. You need to know how to hire the best. Okay, you can't be good at everything, but hire people for different positions that you think will be successful within those positions.